Trump's new tariffs on the rest of the world are not reciprocal. In fact, numerous affected countries allow the entrance of U.S.-made goods at a 0% tariff rate, yet they still were hit with a 10% tariff rate in the best-case scenario. Israel, for example, doesn't charge U.S. imports any tariff. However, Israeli products are going to be charged a 17% tariff upon entering the United States. On April 2, 2025, President Donald Trump announced a series of tariffs, including a 10% baseline duty on all imported goods and higher so-called reciprocal tariffs on countries with significant trade imbalances with the U.S., which go as high as 49%. This move, dubbed a Declaration of Economic Independence, supposedly aims to counter foreign tariffs and non-tariff barriers against U.S. exports and boost domestic manufacturing. But closer examination reveals inconsistencies that challenge the notion of true reciprocity. While the administration presents these tariffs as reciprocal, the reality appears more complex. True reciprocity in trade implies that tariffs imposed by one country are met with equivalent tariffs by its trading partners. Reciprocal trade implies a mutual exchange of concessions, where tariffs and trade barriers are balanced between trading partners. Yet the current tariff strategy appears to deviate from this principle in several ways. Certain countries that import more from the U.S. than the other way around are also facing increased tariffs. This approach seems counterintuitive, as these trade relationships are, by nature, favorable to the U.S. economy. Applying tariffs in these instances may disrupt beneficial trade flows and harm industries that rely on these export markets. Some nations subjected to these new tariffs maintain relatively low duties on American products, and in some cases, zero tariffs. Imposing higher tariffs on such countries could be perceived as punitive rather than corrective, potentially straining diplomatic and economic relations without addressing significant trade imbalances. While the administration's plan considers factors like non-tariff barriers, currency practices, and wage suppression, the methodology for calculating equivalent reciprocal tariffs remains opaque. This lack of transparency complicates assessments of whether the imposed tariffs genuinely reflect equitable adjustments or are disproportionately punitive. Trump railed against both foreign tariffs and non-tariff barriers, citing Australian restrictions on U.S. beef, EU bans on poultry, and Japanese fees on rice. Unfortunately, the president wasn't transparent on the fact that the U.S. also has in the past and the present imposed similar barriers on a number of foreign goods, citing the need to defend local producers and even national security concerns. These include tires and steel bars. When he complained about Australian restrictions, he also failed to acknowledge that the U.S. maintains a trade surplus with this country, which is being hit with a 10% tariff. Even for countries that do charge U.S. imports a tariff, the newly announced U.S. tax is not always directly proportional to that imposed by other nations. This approach risks prompting retaliatory measures from affected countries, potentially leading to a cycle of escalating barriers. Then you have the issue of free trade agreements. Imposing tariffs on countries that have established FTAs with the U.S. undermines the mutual benefits these agreements were designed to foster. FTAs typically eliminate tariffs and promote the free flow of goods and services, benefiting consumers and industries in all participating nations. By reintroducing tariffs on FTA partners, the U.S. risks negative consequences. For example, many U.S. industries rely on intricate supply chains that involve FTA partners. Tariffs can disrupt these networks, leading to inefficiencies and increased production costs. FTA partners are also U.S. allies. Targeting allies with tariffs can strain diplomatic ties and reduce cooperation on broader international issues. For instance, Japan, facing a 24% tariff, has termed the decision extremely regrettable and is pressing for exemptions. In the Western Hemisphere, the U.S. has trade agreements with Mexico, Central America, the Dominican Republic, Chile, Peru, and others. Then the biggest cost of tariffs is laid on the shoulders of the consumer. Tariffs function as taxes on imports, leading to higher costs for imported goods. These increased costs are often passed on to consumers, resulting in higher prices for a wide range of products. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has indicated that such tariffs are likely to reignite inflation. Higher prices on imported goods contribute directly to overall inflation, eroding purchasing power, and potentially prompting the Federal Reserve to adjust interest rates to manage inflationary pressures. Within the business community, the uncertainty and increased costs associated with tariffs can lead businesses to delay or reduce investments. Concerns about supply chain disruptions and decreased competitiveness may cause companies to reconsider expansion plans or hiring, potentially slowing economic growth. Even if you think that tariffs are justified and will usher in an era of unprecedented economic prosperity for the United States, the indisputable truth remains: these tariffs are not reciprocal. The fact that the Trump administration feels the need to call them reciprocal shows you that they themselves know that these are going to bring pain and are trying to convince the public of the fairness of these tariffs, regardless of the coming consequences. This is Latinometry. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any other interesting videos about Latin America and the world. Please like and share this video, and thanks for watching.